තෙරුවන් සරණයි. පින්වත්නි, අද දවස හොඳ පින්කමක් ආරම්භ කරනවා. ඒ නිසා කවුරුත් තිසරණ සහිත පංචශීලයේ සමාදන් වෙලා මේ සත්කාර්ය ආරම්භ කරමු. ඒ නිසා කවුරුත් නමස්කාරය කියන්න.
නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු වරහතු සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස
භගවතු වරහතු සම්මා
සම්බුද්දස්ස
නමෝ
නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු වරහතු සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස
බුද්ධං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
බුද්ධං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
ධම්මං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
ධම්මං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
සංඝං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
සංඝං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
යම්පි බුද්ධං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
යම්පි බුද්ධං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
යම්පි ධම්මං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
යම්පි ධම්මං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
යම්පි සංඝං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
යම්පි සංඝං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
යම්පි බුද්ධං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
යම්පි බුද්ධං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
තතියම්පි ධම්මං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
ධම්මං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
තතියම්පි සංඝං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
යම්පි සංඝං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි.
පානාති පාතා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි.
පානාති වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි.
අදින්නාදානා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි.
අදින්නාදානා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි.
කාමේසු මිච්ඡාචාරා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි. මුසාවාදා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි. සුරාමේරය මජ්ජපමා දට්ඨානා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි. තිසරණේන සද්දින් පංචශීලං ධම්මං සාදුකං සුරක්ඛිතං කତ୍වා අප්පමාදේන සම්පාදේ තබ්බං. නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස. පූජනීය අපේ බලංගොඩ ධම්මානන්ද හාමුදුරුවෝ වහන්සේ ඇතුළු මහා සංඝරත්නයන් අවසර දායක පින්වත් සියලු දෙනාගෙන් මේ අවස්ථාව ඉතාම වැදගත් කොට අපි සලකනවා. අපි ජීවිතවල හොඳ සම්දිස්ථානයක් මේ ඉදිරි කාලේ අපට ලබන්නේ. විශාල පිරිසක් සහභාගී වෙන බව දැනෙනවා. අපි බෞද්ධයන් හැටියට යම් දවසකද මව්කුසක පිළිසිඳගන්නේ එදා ඉඳලා අපට හොඳ සිතක්, භවාංග සිතක්, ප්‍රතිසන්දි හිතක් ඇති වෙනවා. අංගුත්තර නිකායේ එක තැනක තථාගත ලෞතුරා බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේ පැහැදිලි කරනවා පබස්සර මිදම් භික්ඛවේ චිත්තං පංචකෝ ආගන්තුකේහි උපක්ඛලේසේහි උපක්ඛලිට්ඨං කියලා. කුඩා මව් කුසේදීම තමයි අපේ මේ සිත ඇති කරන්නේ. ඉන් පස්සේ මෙලොවට ජනිත වෙලා අපි ඉදිරි කටයුතු කාරණා සිද්ධ කරගෙන යනකොට මේ එකම හිතක්, එකම ගංගාවක් ගලාගෙන යනවා වගේ මේ හිත ආගන්තුකෝ පැමිණෙන සියලු කටයුතු වලින් තමයි කුසල් අකුසල් අව්‍යාකෘත මේ හැම එකකින්ම පසින්දුරන් චක්කුසෝතගාන ජීවාකාය මනකිට මේවට ඇතුළු කරන කුසල් වෙන්න පුළුවන් අකුසල් වෙන්න පුළුවන් ඒවා තමයි ඉදිරියට ගෙනියන්නේ. කුඩාම අවස්ථාවේදී මේ සිත ඊටාම පිරිසිදුයි. තාම පිරිසිදු නිසා පසු කාලීනව අපෙන් එකතු වෙන කුසල අකුසල නිසා තමයි මේක ටිකක් දීප්තිය ප්‍රභාස්වරය අඩු වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා ඒ සඳහා හොඳ උත්සාහයක් අපේ ධම්මානන්ද හාමුදුරන් වහන්සේ මේ අභිධර්ම විස්තරයෙන් ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන නිසා උන්වහන්සේටත් තෙරුවන් සරණින් මේ කටයුතු කරන්නට අවස්ථාව සැලසේවා. එයට සහභාගී වන ඔබ හැමදෙනාම හොඳට මතක තියාගන්නට ඕන මේක සිතත් එක්ක ගෙනියන ධර්මානුකූල වැඩපිළිවෙලක්. ඒ නිසා සහභාගී වෙන හැම අවස්ථාවක්ම අත් නොහැර මග නොහැර ඉදිරියට කරගෙන යන්න අපට මෙලොවත් සැනසෙල්ලක් පරලොවත් සැනසෙල්ලක් අවසානයේ අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන උතුම් නිවන් සම්පත් සාක්ෂාත් කර ගැනීමට හේතු වාසනා වේවා කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරමු. හැම දිනාටම තෙරුවන් සරණයි. ධම්මානන්ද
Hello everyone, good evening, good morning. Thank you very much for joining with us in this Abhidhamma 101. Though we didn't mention in our poster about the medium that we are conducting this class, I think it is understood that we are doing it in English medium. Now, prior to that, there are certain disciplines that I have to clarify to you. During this class, you better keep your phones mute. I mean, the Zoom mute until we come to the Q&A. During the Q&A, you are free to ask questions. Not to give talks, but to ask questions. The second thing, better keep your video on. Yeah? Because I don't know whether I'm talking to a sleeping crowd or wakeful crowd. I don't know. So please open your video, but keep the phones mute. I mean, the Zoom mute. Yeah? That's the second discipline you have to follow. Third one is, now we are following a sequence from the first lesson. Today, the lesson for the introduction. Yeah, today is not the lesson, the first. Today, the introduction. From then onwards, we will be having 23 classes for this Abhidhamma learning. 23 classes. So I want the participants to be constant, to be present in classes as much as possible. Of course, we will be uploading either on YouTube or Facebook for those who miss the classes accidentally or some unprecedented urgency, for them to be together with the lessons, for them to carry on. We will be uploading the videos. But I just wish you don't make it a habit to be absent in many lessons. Yeah, because we won't be uploading the Q&A. Only the lesson will be uploaded. During the lesson, something that you misunderstood or something confused, please feel free to ask. What you have to do is just remember the slide that you misunderstood. Just remember the slide, the number of the slide you misunderstood, or you just couldn't understand. then you can ask me during the Q&A. Don't be hesitated to ask. You are to ask your questions anytime, during the Q&A, or else you can text me, you can email us, you can write the questions in our WhatsApp group. I'm happy to answer, I'm happy to clarify. If you are new to Buddhism, you will find certain words we use are not so familiar to you, and unfortunately, since we are very familiar with the Pali words, we will be constantly using them. If you are not familiar with those words, don't worry. The English translation is there, of course. So either way, it is possible to understand. What my request is, carry on. Either you find kind of difficult to understand or confusing, you can question, or you just carry on with the lessons. Ultimately, I'm pretty sure you will have a clear idea about what this class is, what this teaching called Abhidhamma is. So I just hope you follow these lessons constantly on every Saturday, 8 o'clock. Of course, today we had some hiccups, because for the first time, we are doing it via Zoom. With my with a new supporter, I'm doing it. Last year, about a few years back, I did this Abhidhamma via Zoom, mainly for the students or the crowd from Malaysia, Singapore, and India. At that time, I was supported by Mrs. Monica Woon and Sister Gwachin. They were well versed in that. They supported me very well. This year, I'm being supported by Mr. Damit. So today we had some hiccups, some errors here and there, but I'm pretty sure from next week onwards, we will be doing it without any errors. And make sure you join before 8 o'clock. Because we are going to start sharp at 8 o'clock without fail. Right? So please make sure that you join before 8 o'clock. Before 8 o'clock. That's very important. Otherwise, it's kind of a nuisance, clearly. So please make sure you join before 8 o'clock. So with that, let's move to the lessons. Right. Abhidhamma. Now, we all know that the Lord Buddha Gautama, when he initiated his ministry after his enlightenment, with the first ever teaching Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, to the last teaching, throughout the 45 years, he was sharing the path to nirvana with the audience, whosoever willing to listen and follow. When the Buddha teaches Dhamma, he swooped down to the level of the audience, level of the targeted audience to understand the Dhamma. That's the nature of the Buddha. So therefore, the Dhamma is basically to attain nirvana. for the liberation from suffering. The singular goal, aim is there, but Buddha had to adapt himself to different methods, similes, metaphors, different explanations, different categorizing, analyzing, in order to make it suit for the targeted audience. That's why we can witness number of different teachings are there. Certain suttas, certain teachings are very short, brief and precise, using technical terms. Same thing is explained in quite long sutras, quite long teachings with different approach. So there are a number of sutras, thousands of sutras Buddha taught during those 45 years of his ministry. All these sutras were memorized by his followers, by the monastic disciples of the Buddha. They memorized them. And they compiled into a series of books called Sutta Pitaka. Pitaka is translated, means baskets. So the three baskets are there. First one is the Sutta Pitaka. These are the direct guidelines of the Buddha for different, diverse groups of students for the benefit of their understanding. Now, basically, the Dhamma is the term that we use, that we utilize to indicate the teachings of the Buddha with the capital D, Dhamma. Dhamma is the term. Now, then comes the Vinaya Pitaka. Vinaya are the rules and regulations for monks and nuns, for the monastic, male and female disciples of the Buddha, for them to discipline in such a manner that the liberation is faster for them. Attainment of nirvana is speedier, faster for them when they are disciplined in such a manner. Those disciplinary codes are there. They also recorded. They are there for anybody to follow. So the Vinaya Pitaka is there. Vinaya Pitaka are the codes of disciplinary codes simply for the monastic male and female disciples. These are the two major divisions we can find in the Buddha's dispensation. And then came the last one, Abhidhamma Pitaka. Now, there are many misconceptions about this. What is this Abhidhamma? Is it a different teaching? Or is it something higher, greater teaching than the Buddha's teaching? Yeah. Is it important for us to learn? All sorts of questions are there. Is it necessary? If it is necessary, Buddha would teach Abhidhamma without teaching the sutras. All sorts of questions are there. Now, we have to, my target is, my understanding is to have a little bit of a survey on that notion. What is this Abhidhamma and what is the benefit of learning it? Be gone. Now, I give you the literal meaning of the word Abhidhamma. Dhamma, of course, I know, you know now. I already mentioned you that Dhamma is nothing but simply Buddha's teaching. Dhamma is Buddha's teaching. Yeah, all the teachings in the Sutra Pitaka that recorded teachings of the Buddha is the Dhamma, what we mentioned here. Yeah, but literally, Dhamma comes from the root dhar. Yeah, this is just to have some deep understanding. Dhamma or the dharma comes from the root called dhar. Translated or meaning is to hold, to support. So that which support or holds is Dhamma in that sense. But usually when we say Dhamma, that means Buddha's teaching. Abhi indicates, these are the meanings for Abhi. Abhi is a kind of a prefix. So Abhidhamma is a compound term, right? Abhi and Dhamma comes together called Abhidhamma, a compound term. Abhi indicates about or referring to, distinction, superior, higher. These triple meanings are given by not by the Buddha. Okay, these meanings are given by the commentators. We are going to talk about that. Yeah? The commentators gave the meaning, distinction, superior or higher for the word Abhidhamma, the Abhi, right? They said it is distinction, superior or higher. Remember who gave this meaning? The commentators. Who are these commentators? In Pali we call it Attakatachari, Attakata, commentators. When Buddhism went to Sri Lanka, of course, it went in the mode of, or in the language of Pali or the Magadhi, the Buddha's language, or the language that the Buddha used to communicate. The Magadhi later became Pali. Now, when Buddhism went to Sri Lanka, of course, the monks had to explain this to the community, to the people there. But they are not Pali educated people. They don't know this foreign language. So what did the monk do? Those erudite Buddhist savants, Buddhist scholars, Buddhist students, they start writing meanings, explanations, commentaries for the teachings of the Buddha. Now these commentaries became so popular. Naturally, it becomes popular because it is in the mother tongue, it is in Sinhala, right? So these commentaries became so popular, and the stories in those commentaries became the real stories for the Buddha. Do you know? Buddha's life story that we know, majority of them came from the commentaries, not from the suttas, not from the real teachings of the Buddha. Because in the real teachings of the Buddha, you don't find many places, many areas that the Buddha talk about his life. Yeah. In the commentaries, we got all these stories. Now you know who are the commentaries. What are the commentaries? Commentaries are the Sri Lankan monks who wrote the explanations for the suttas in Sri Lanka in Sinhala. Later, a monk called Buddhaghosa, he went to Sri Lanka, he translated those Sinhala commentaries, Sri Lankan commentaries, into Pali language again. And what happened to those Sri Lankan commentaries? They are gone. They are missing. Somebody must have destroyed it. What we have is Pali commentaries. But Pali commentaries are nothing but the translations of the Sinhala commentaries, Sri Lankan commentaries. Okay. So in those commentaries, the Abhi is translated or given the meaning as distinction, superior, higher. But the scholars today and those days, they give the translation for Abhi as about or referring to. And we can get two meanings for Abhidhamma now. Following the commentaries, we can call Abhidhamma higher doctrine. Or following the scholars, we can find the meaning for Abhidhamma about doctrine. Now, for me, I am in the second category. I am following the second category. Yeah. about doctrine. Now, Abhidhamma Pitaka, this is Bhikkhu Bodhi says about Abhidhamma Pitaka. Abhidhamma Pitaka is the treatises in which principles of doctrine have been methodically organized, minutely defined, and meticulously tabulated and classified. Now, all these, the Abhidhamma is what? Principles of doctrine. Which doctrine? The doctrine found in the suttas. The doctrine found in the suttas. They are the principles in those doctrines, in those teachings, methodically organized, minutely defined to the subtlemost level, and meticulously, clearly tabulated and classified. That's what the Abhidhamma did for. It's not a different teaching. It's a classifying, defining, tabulating, organizing of the principles we find in the suttas. All right? I hope you understood. Now, Abhidhamma is considered as a philosophy, as a psychology, and ethics. Of course, the seeds, the roots for all these triple aspects are there in Abhidhamma. As a philosophy, Abhidhamma is an ontology. Yeah, that is to explain the reality. Explain the reality hidden behind illusory phenomena. Now, this reality is called the Dhamma theory, ultimate reality. Ultimate reality is not something separate from what we see, what we hear, what we feel. No. They are the reality hidden behind the apparent falsehood. Apparent reality is there. It is not false, actually. It is there. But this apparent reality is impermanent. Apparent reality is, when it is analyzed, this apparent reality, it is not there. So that's why it is just called apparent reality. Apparently it is there, but ultimately it is not there. So that's why Abhidhamma considered the philosophy, as a philosophy, Abhidhamma is to deal with the ultimate reality. As a psychology, it is phenomenological psychology. You can Google it and check what is this phenomenological psychology. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it properly. Yeah. It is to understand the experience, the reality in the introspective meditation, insight meditation, or vipassana, prajna. In vipassana, what kind of experience that you bound to experience, bound to receive, bound to feel, that experience is explained in the Abhidhamma. So without going there, developing that vipassana mode for the liberation, you can have some clear understanding what this vipassana gives you when it is being practiced. Now, after learning this, if you happen to engage in vipassana and developing on it, you will see what I learned, now I experience. So the psychology is here, is that experience psychology in vipassana. Also, it divides consciousness into types, features and links, and the interaction between each mind and mental factors, and the mind with the material world. All these are explained as a psychology. Remember, Buddhist psychology, this psychology in the Abhidhamma is non-therapeutical. It is not therapeutical psychology. Because most of the people that the Buddha encountered, were sane people, I can say. Yeah, they were not mentally troubled, disturbed, depressed. Yeah, of course, there were some Angulimala, Bhattacharya, Hisa Gautami. They were mentally troubled people. Buddha must have approached in a beautiful way for those troubled people to become enlightened. Yeah, they became enlightened disciples of the Buddha. Buddha must have gone in a beautiful way to transform them, but it is not recorded. So here, as a psychology, Abhidhamma is talking about from the normal general psychology to the from the general consciousness to the super consciousness. Now, consciousness is the word for chitta, mind. We don't use the word mind a lot, mind much, because it doesn't cover the entire area of chitta. Chitta, or the consciousness, is the ideal word to be used for the mind in this Abhidhamma sense. Right? So, as a psychology, Abhidhamma helps for this general consciousness, or Abhidhamma show the hierarchy that consciousness to be developed from general level to the super consciousness, which is to achieve in the supramundane. Now, as ethics, it is not about 10 precepts, 5 precepts, or any sort of precept. It is about the types of consciousness, beginning from the unwholesome to the mundane wholesome, to the fine material, immaterial, and to the supramundane. That hierarchy, how this consciousness to be developed with the support of mental factors, how this chitta consciousness to be developed. It is being explained as a part of ethics in the Abhidhamma. So Abhidhamma could be a philosophy, could be a psychology, and also ethics. All the three aspects are embedded in this section called Abhidhamma. Now comes the books. 7 books of Abhidhamma. Can you read the Pali? Yeah, see with me. Don't unmute, okay? Dhamma Sangani, Vibhanga, Dhatu Kata, Puggala Panyatti, Pathavattu, Yamaka, Patthana. Again, please. Dhamma Sangani, just, just to get used to the words. Dhamma Sangani, Vibhanga, Dhatu Kata, Puggala Panyatti, Pathavattu, Yamaka, Patthana. Now, out of these 7, are we going to learn all this? Yes, only the gist of these 7 will be discussed in these lessons, right? Now, out of these 7, the first one and the last one is worth talking about. The first one is classification of the Dhamma. That means Dhammas. Now we know the word Dhammas are there. Dhammas, what does it mean? Ultimate realities. Dhammas are the ultimate truths. The reality hidden behind the apparent reality, which is called the ultimate reality. They are the Dhammas. Now these Dhammas are classified, analyzed in this present category, present book. I mean the first book, Dhamma Sangani. Why this analyzing is that important? Now even Buddhism is called Vibhajyavad. It's the analyzing Dhamma. Why this analyzing is that significant in Buddhism? Because with the analyzing, a certain misconcept, wrong view is bound to vanish. What is that wrong view? Self, Atma. Atma, or the self, that notion of self or Atma bound to vanish with the analyzing, because as you are going on analyzing, you find nothing there, emptiness. Yeah, that selflessness, anatma is there. Now, the first one is Dhamma Sangani, that is analyzing and classification. It is important for us. Why? It helps to generate anatma, selflessness. And comes the last one, Patthana, the book of causal relations. In this book, there are 24 Patthanas, 24 Patthanas. Yeah. Now, in these Patthanas, they show the link, cause and effect, condition and conditioned. That relationship, causality among the classified Dhammas in the first book is shown in the Patthana book. In the book of Patthana, what happens is a showcase of showing or demonstrating how these classified dhammas are causally arisen or conditionally arisen, in between condition and conditioned. Now, that's why I say this Dhamma Sangani and Patthana. Dhamma Sangani shows the teaching of selflessness, non-self, anatma, and Patthana shows the teaching of dependent origination or conditionality. That's why these are the two books most important among these 7 books. And of course, the gist of other books also being discussed during these lessons. Now, beginning of Abhidhamma. Where does the Abhidhamma begin? Of course, I think, I have a feeling, some of you already know about this story. The 4th week, yeah, after his enlightenment, Lord Buddha Gautama resided in a chamber called Ratanaghara. Yeah, Ratanaghara, translated, means golden or jeweled chamber. Ratanaghara, jeweled chamber. He was residing there, meditatively residing there. What happened? During that meditation, he started contemplating Abhidhamma. He started contemplating what? Abhidhamma means he started contemplating the 7 books, from the first one to the last one. Now, the story says, when he was contemplating the first 6 books, nothing happened. But when he was contemplating the last book, what happened was 6 colorful rays, 6 colors started coming out of the Buddha. Do you want to know which colors? The colors of the Buddhist flag. Yeah, the 6 colors started coming out of the Buddha, indicating where his enlightened wisdom had the full capacity when he was contemplating the Patthana. Now, that 4th week, he never taught this, he contemplated about it. After that, in the 7th Vassa, 7th rains retreat during July and October, Lord Buddha Gautama ascended to Tavatimsa heaven to observe Vassa in the Tavatimsa heaven. Those who are not aware of this, there are 6 heavens in Buddhism. Yeah, we have a choice, unlike other religions. Yeah, to which heaven to go, you have a choice. Now, he was residing during that Vassa in this Tavatimsa heaven. Now, he had an intention to observe Vassa in the heaven, to teach Abhidhamma to to the deities. That's what he thought. Mainly, chiefly targeting his former mother, who passed away after the Buddha's birth. 7 days time, mother passed away. She had taken birth in Tusita heaven, one of the higher heavens, as a male deity. To teach Dhamma to that male deity, who is called Matru Divya Raja, to teach Dhamma to that male deity, Lord Buddha ascended to Thavatinsa heaven. That male deity came. Remember, he was the former mother in his previous life of the Buddha, mother of the Buddha. So teach Dhamma, Abhidhamma to mother in order to ascend her to a certain stage of liberation. He taught Abhidhamma there in the Thavatinsa heaven. For 3 months he was teaching this. And this is the story about the origin of Abhidhamma. There is more to this story, but that's good enough. This is the story. And you know where the story is there? Where can we find the record of this story? Not in the suttas, not in the Vinaya, not in the original teachings of the Buddha, but in the commentaries. I told you about commentaries, right? Commentaries are the commentaries written by Sri Lankan monks. They wrote these stories. Now what happened? These stories became very popular among us, among the Buddhists, Theravada Buddhists. And they say, well, yes, Buddha taught Abhidhamma directly. Yeah. But of course, many other schools of Buddhism don't believe that. Also, the scholars don't say that it is directly from the Buddha. Yeah. It is later developed. It is later developed. But it was that the development of Abhidhamma began during the times of the Buddha himself. The second point, if you read, you can see that. Those days when Buddha gave a talk, monks gathered and they listened. After the talk, Buddha goes back to his quarters. What did the monk do? They gathered, they made a circle, they gathered. And they started discussing the ways to remember what the Buddha taught. Because everybody didn't have super memory. Those teachings bound to forget. They had no way to document them. Yeah, they had no way to record them, only in the memory. So how to remember this? They started creating topics. Okay, today these are the topics that the Buddha explained. They remembered the topic and the explanation is always easier. Remember the topics. And that's what they did. They gathered and they discussed from which topic he started and from which topic he finished the talk. That hierarchy they memorized. That's how majority of the students, or almost all the students, started remembering the teachings of the Buddha. And it so happened, after some time, there are a particular group of monks. Yeah, they are called Matikadhara. Those monks are specialists in remembering those topics. These topics are called matrixes or matika. Matrixes or matika. Now, actually, these matrices are nothing but the gist or the scaffolding or the blueprint where the teachings is developed. That citadel of the sutta is developed based on that scaffolding, matika, matrices. Now, these Martika are the cause for the later development of Abhidhamma. Now we can see, though the Buddha didn't teach Abhidhamma directly, Buddha provided the cause, or Buddha provided the background for the Abhidhamma to build. Matrices, Martika. Now, in the suttas, these words, Abhidhamma, is mentioned sometimes. Do you know that Abhidhamma is coupled with another word always? That is Abhivinaya. Abhidhamma, Abhivinaya. Now, if you happen to recall, Vinaya means discipline. Abhivinaya means what? Higher discipline. If you go along with the higher Dhamma, Abhidhamma, no, it is not. Abhivinaya is about Vinaya, referring to Vinaya. Abhidhamma, in that case, if we happen to follow the suttas, Abhidhamma is about Dhamma. Now you can see, when I say the right meaning should be for Abhidhamma is about or referring to the Dhamma, not higher or special. Right? Now, purpose of Abhidhamma. Please read this. To describe and analyze the world. Which world? The world we experience. The world we see, world we hear, world we feel, world we touch, world we taste. That's the world we experience. Not the globe or universe. Yeah? It is the world we experience. That experiencing world to describe and analyze as accurately as possible. No one can refute this. No one can go against that analyzing. It is so accurate. And to look for irreducible, indivisible realities in our lives. Also, analyzing of phenomena is not just to satisfy theoretical curiosity. It is for ultimate self-realization of Nibbana. Remember, the goal of suttas and goal of Abhidhamma is just the same. Realizing Nibbana. Yeah. Study of Abhidhamma is to have a clear comprehension of the mainstream teachings in the suttas. Now, when you happen to have a clear understanding of Abhidhamma, and you read the sutta, or you listen to a Dhamma talk given by some other monk or some other teacher, you know exactly what that monk is talking about or explaining. That's one of a huge advantage, right? And you are not to be deceived by anyone. You know exactly what the Dhamma is, what the teachings of the Buddha is. You know the scaffolding, you know the blueprint. No one can deceive you. That's a huge understanding. Because there are many conmen in this Buddhist world today, using the Buddha's name and using the Dhamma, they try to deceive the people for their advantage. They try to change according to their planning. Yeah, you will never get caught in those nets of conmen if you know Abhidhamma. Next one, comprehend one's own state of consciousness, especially in meditation. In meditation, when you are developing, you know what it is. You don't need to go anywhere else or anyone ask for the meaning of your experience. You know what it is. Know one's state of development in meditation. When you are developing, you know where am I now in this development. These are the purposes of Abhidhamma. Now, we go again to that Dhamma theory, ultimate reality, conventional truth, ultimate reality or ultimate truth. Sammuti Satya, Paramatta Satya. Let me give you a simple example or simple demonstration. You got a handkerchief or something? I have one. Can everybody see me, right? I got this handkerchief. Yeah. And why do we call this handkerchief or hanky? I don't know what. Yeah, why do we call this? Because of the size, shape. We don't call this a pillowcase, right? We don't call this towel or something. We call it a handkerchief. Why? The shape and size and the hem around it. In the four corners, we can find the hem. Yeah. What if I remove the hem out of this handkerchief? What if? What happened? That handkerchief is gone. After that, you don't call it a handkerchief, you call it a piece of cloth. Yeah. You call it a piece of cloth. Now, if I got more time to waste, I will remove each and every string. There are small, almost invisible strings are what made this handkerchief, right? Now, if I got more time to waste, I will remove these strings one by one, one by one, one by one. Then what happened? That piece of cloth is no more. Only a heap of strings. I got extra more time to waste. I can remove the fibers from those strings. Can you say any more strings are there? No strings. You don't call it a string anymore. A heap of fibers. Of fiber. Ultimately, we can reduce them until they totally vanish. So the conventional truth is the handkerchief. Ultimate reality, ultimate truth is something totally different. Conventional truth is there. It is there. It is accepted. The truth is there. But it is not ultimately existing. That's the difference. Lord Buddha never said there is no conventional truth. No. But that conventional truth is not permanent, not eternal. And when you are deducting, analyzing, it is not there. That's the difference. So these truths, conventional truth, ultimate truth. More explanation on that. Conventional realities. Please read this. I give a few minutes for that. So Sammuti Satya or conventional reality happens via conceptual thought. Conceptual thought in Pali, it is called panyati. And that conceptual thought expressed in the mode called conventional mode. When the conceptual thought, now when we say concept naturally indicate it has arisen in someone's mind and it has been expressed via verbal communication. Yeah. So that's how the Sammuti Satya is created. Somebody, when we were born, if you happen to look at an apple, you don't know what it is. Yeah, you know only the sound, shape, color, shape and color, that's all. And somebody comes and say, this is an apple. Then we know. Now this word apple is somebody's concept which has transformed into a conventional mode. That's how the Sammuti Satya is created. Include entities such as living beings, humans, animals, man, woman, mountain, trees. All these are conventional truths. Yeah. Apparently stable, persisting objects that make up unanalyzed picture of the world. Now, conventional truth is nothing but apparently stable, but when analyzed, you won't find it there. Unanalyzed, apparent truth is expressed via conventional realities. Now, Abhidhamma doesn't talk about that at all. Now, ultimate reality, Paramatta Satya. You see the word Paramatta, Parama, ultimate. final, abstract, immutable, utter reality thing. Things that exist by reason of their own intrinsic nature. When you analyze, you cannot go further. That's it. It is there by its own intrinsic nature. Final, irreducible components of existence. Ultimate entities that result from a correct analysis of experience, observation of the conventional reality as it is, as it really is. We examine the conventional realities with wisdom. The wisdom, when it is applied to the conventional reality, as the wisdom deepens, as the wisdom becoming stronger and stronger, that conventional reality is penetrated and seen the ultimate reality within. Wisdom is the key, or in Pali, another word is there, yoniso manasikara. Yeah, that's that wise contemplation. Through wise contemplation, intelligent contemplation, when you analyze the apparent realities, you find the ultimate realities. Now, who are you? A man, human being. Now, when Buddha says world, loka, now I know many of you know this word, loka vidu, knower of the world. When we pay our respect to the Buddha, this is one of the epithets we recite. Loka vidu, knower of the world. Which world? The world related to this fathom-long body. That's the world. Not the globe, not the universe, but this fathom-long body. Buddha indicates you are a miniature universe. What happens to the universe in larger scale happens to you in a miniature scale. If you happen to understand yourself, you happen to understand everything else in the world. Now, in the suttas, we can find Buddha analyze this human form into 5 categories. Now, man, woman, gone. Tall, short, gone. Skin color, gone. Nothing matters. Every human being, in spite of all the superficial differences, every human being contain these 5 factors. What are they? Beginning from form, rupa. Please repeat with me if you are not familiar with the Pali word, then, little bit familiar, no harm. Vedana, feeling. Sanya, perception. Sankhara, mental formations. Vijnana, consciousness. These are the 5 aggregates which formed this human life, our life. Out of these 4, what is material? What is the material factor? Form. Form is the only thing, rupa. Vedana, feeling. Sanya, perception. Sankhara, mental formation. Vijnana, consciousness. Consciousness, another word, chitta. Yeah, a name for mind. All these are mind related. These middle 3, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara. These 3 are mental factors. Vijnana, consciousness, is the chitta, or the consciousness itself. So we got rupa, form, mental factors, 3 mental factors, and then the consciousness, right? Now, if you think confusing or something, if you are so new to this, don't worry. We will be discussing this in future lessons again and again. Then you will be familiar. Now, in Abhidhamma, these 5 we find in the suttas. Now, when it comes to Abhidhamma, those 5 aggregates transformed into 3 aggregates. Form, rupa, is there. Yeah, it is there already. Then comes the chetasika, mental factors. When you say mental factors, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara are also included. So it is not separately mentioned. Yeah, mental factors. These three are part of the mental factors. So it comes to one factor, then the chitta consciousness. So in Abhidhamma, those five aggregates turn into three aggregates: Rupa, Chetasika, Chitta. Now, when it is limited to three aggregates, another aggregate is included. That aggregate is Nibbana, Nirvana aggregate. Now you can see underneath there is this type, unconditioned element. Because Nibbana is not arisen via any conditions. Yeah, it is to arise when all the conditions vanish. So when chitta, consciousness, chetasika, mental factors, rupa, form are conditionally arisen. Conditionally arisen means there is a cause behind. That's the meaning. Nibbana is the unconditioned element. These are the aggregates that we are going to talk. This is the core. This is the origin or the beginning of Abhidhamma. As a whole, again, we can see chitta or consciousness, chetasika mental factors, rupa form. These are three conditioned aggregates. Nibbana, the unconditioned aggregate. These four ultimate realities are the foundation of entire Abhidhamma. Chitta, chetasika, rupa, nibbana. Consciousness, mental factors, form, and nirvana. Nibbana. In number, how many? Rupa, form. We are going to learn 28 forms. Vedana, feeling, of course, 1. Perception, 1. Mental formations, 50. Sankharas, there are 50 mental formations are to learn. And consciousness, how many? 89 or 121. This is just to introduce, that's it. Don't worry about remembering or, yeah. Nibbana, again, only singular factor. Altogether, 220 ultimate realities, Dhammas, are what we are going to learn. All right, that's it. These are the things that I wanted to explain to you as the introduction of Abhidhamma. Yeah. Next week we are going to start the lessons. I'll do a small blessing for you and conclude this. Bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sabba dhammanubhavena sabba sanghanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.